Hello friends and welcome to yet another video on Python. In this video we are going to talk about map function in Python. You must have heard about map function in Python if you have been doing Python, but today we will understand what exactly map function is and what are the different ways in which we can use the map function. So let's start exploring. So first of all, let me actually talk about the fact that map happens to be one of the built-in functions in Python, which means that you don't need to import any libraries. You don't need to import any modules if you want to use the map function. It is available to you by default because it is the part of the standard Python. So now let's look at the syntax for map function. So here is a quick definition which says that map function is in Python basically applies a given function to all the items in an iterable. So if we look at what exactly is a map in real life, well, it's basically a mapping from one set of elements to, let's say, another set of elements. So the transformation happens basically with the help of a function. So what exactly map does, it takes an iterable, it applies a function to all the elements which are available in the iterable and returns the new list which is there. We will learn an interesting fact that it doesn't return the iterable all the time. It returns a map which happens to be a generator which generates the elements of the iterable one by one in the lazy fashion. So let's look at the syntax of map function. So the syntax of map function happens to be very simple. We just have to write map like any other function in Python. Then we have to pass the function which we want to call for the iterable. So we can pass multiple iterable also. And we will look at examples for that how exactly we can pass multiple iterables. So this thing, the result type I've already talked about. This is going to be, so it's going to return an iterator which is lazy and computes the values on the fly as you loop over it. So you're not going to get a list. But if you want to typecast the output to the list, you can always do that. And we will see how it can be done in some of the sections of this video. Let's look at our first example. So we are given a list of strings, and the name of the list is words. So what we have to do is we have to convert all the strings in the words to uppercase. So here we are going to use, so we are saying uppercase words equals map str.upper. Now if you see, str.upper happens to be the function which we are passing, and we have to apply it to all the elements which are present in the words list. So now if I say print, as I talked about it, that you will have to convert list, you have to convert the output, which is a map object, to a list if you want to display it. So let me first run this example. As you can see that all the elements have been converted to their uppercase equivalents. But now let me actually dig a little deeper and let me show you what exactly is the type of, let's say, uppercase words. So this happens to be a map, right? And then you can typecast. So let's say list uppercase equals list, the function, right? And then you can write uppercase underscore words. This will get converted to a list. So now your list uppercase happens to be a list. You can actually check the type of list uppercase. Let's see if it gets printed. Yeah. So now it is a list, right? And yep, I think the other thing I have already shown you, I can simply do list uppercase, and here we go. It prints all the elements, right? So now you saw that just like we discussed in the syntax, there is this map. Then this is the function which you want to apply to each element in the iterable. And this is your iterable. This is a single iterable which I have passed. In some of the examples, we will see how we can pass multiple iterables also. Now in the second example, we are going to square all the elements in the list. So let's say numbers is the list which is given to us, and we want to square all the elements which are present in the list. What we can do, we can define another variable squares. And here again, we are using the map. Then this time we are going to use the lambda function. If you are not aware of what a lambda function is, how it is used in Python, you can always go to the video which I have already created on the lambdas. I think you should be able to find it on the channel, or I'll share the link in the description. You can just comment and I'll share the link with you. So lambda x star 2, which means that each element which will be passed to lambda will return its square in simple terms, right? And we are passing numbers to it, which means all the elements of numbers will be passed through this lambda function one by one. 1 will go first, 2 will go next, 3 and then 4. And we will be getting the squares. So let me just go ahead and print this as well. So as you can see, So 1 is mapped to 1, 2 is mapped to 4, 3 is mapped to 9, 4 is mapped to 16. So this is how the map function is working. So now the next example says, let's compute the length of each word in a list. So we are given certain words like Python, Java, and C++, and the objective is to compute the length of each word which is present in this list. So what we are doing, we are passing the function length, and we want to apply this function length to all the elements which are present in the words list. So let's just go ahead and execute this. So as you can see, Python has six, I can say six. 6 is the length of like how many characters are there in this word. So in Python, there are 6 characters. So hence the length is 6, right? Next is multiply elements from two lists. Now comes the example we are using two iterables, one being list 1, the other one being list 2, right? So list 1 has these elements, that is 2, 3, and 4. Similarly, list 2 is having these elements, that is 10, 20, and 30. So what we want to do, we want to multiply both of these, as you can see, with the help of this lambda function. So 2 into 10 will become 20, 3 into 20 will become 60, 4 into 30 will become 120. Let's go and check the result. So yeah, 20, 60, and 120. So these are all some practical examples where you can use, conveniently use the map function instead of having to apply the loops. Well, you can always solve these problems with the help of loops as well, but this is a more convenient method, and this is the more Pythonic way of approaching things. The next example is where we want to concatenate elements from the two lists. So this is again an example with multiple iterables. So we have first names, we have last names, and we want to combine them. We are using a lambda again for this also. And we are passing the two iterables, which is first names and last names. So let's just go ahead and execute this code as well. So as we can see that all the first names have been concatenated with the last names. Next is converting strings to integers. This is one of the most common use cases. Whenever we are reading any input from the user in Python, it is always a string. So whenever the input is given as, let's say, comma separated values, it is always given as a string first, then we have to split it, and then we can always use the map function to convert the strings to integers. So let's go ahead and check this. So yep, as we can see that 1, 2, 3 has been converted to the numeric values 1, 2, and 3. So next is how we can use map to find the square roots of numbers in a given list. So I don't think this actually needs an explanation. So I'll just straight away go and execute this. So we will get the square roots of all these numbers. Now there is one thing which I would like to point out here, that map can be applied to any iterable. Most of the examples which we have seen, they are all list-based examples, but it can be applied to any other iterable as well. So negate all the elements in the list, simply return the negative value. Again, we are using lambda for this. So output I have already mentioned, as you can see. So yes, we get -5, 4, -3. As you see, all the symbols have been negated. All the symbols have been converted. So add a constant to all the elements in the list. So numbers is given as a list 1, 2, 3, right? Is the 1, 2, 3 are the elements in the list. Then we are saying that lambda xx plus 5 is the constant here. We want to add a constant value 5 to all the elements in the list numbers. So we have passed the function to the map function as the first argument, and second argument is the numbers. So numbers is this list basically. So now what happens? Well, 5 is added to all the elements which are present in the list. Last but not definitely the least, convert Celsius to Fahrenheit. It's having a simple formula. When we have to convert Celsius to the Fahrenheit scale, both are the basically the units of measurement of temperature, right? So we are given some temperatures in Celsius scale, but we want to convert them to the Fahrenheit scale. And this is how we are able to do it with the help of map and lambda. So it's basically a combination of map and lambda. And as you can see that these values have been converted from one unit to the other unit. So in this way, there happens to be a lot of practical applications of map where we use map to write more Pythonic code. So as you can see that map function is often used to perform element-wise transformations on data. So data is given to us, we want to transform that data to some other type. So whenever you are faced with such a use case in Python, you should always think about using a combination of map with lambda or with some other function. So if you see that in most of the cases we have used lambda, but you don't need to use lambda, you can actually use named functions as well. As you can see that in some of the examples, for example, math.sqrt, you can use any valid Python function as the first argument to this map function. Cool. And then again, it can be more concise and readable alternative to writing explicit loops for such operations. So using maps is always a better alternative. It's a more Pythonic alternative, and it actually helps you to express sometimes the logic in a single line rather than writing all the different loops to achieve the same task. So I hope you really liked going through this quick video on what exactly is the map function in Python, and I hope you understood how exactly you can use the map function in Python. So that's it for this video from my side. I'll see you in the next one. Till then, take care and bye-bye.